Hi there, James from Terrio Handmade Knives here. What we have today is the very first and very second Deuce prototype. You can see this is all dirty because I've been using it all week. What it is a chunk of CPM 3V hardened by Peter's heat treat to about 60 Rockwell on the C scale. The blade is right at 9.5 inches long. It's made of 1/4 inch stock. This deluxe model has a tapered tang and a little bit prettier handle. I want to show you what the standard model will look like. The full thickness tang. It's just drilled a couple times through the tang to remove a little bit of weight, but still leave a good solid chunk of metal in there for strength. Standard model will come with a forward lanyard hole and a lanyard hole at the rear if you prefer that. The spine is crowned just a little bit so that when you go to bashing it through something else with a club of wood, it doesn't bust up your baton so much. And also that little bit of relief helps it pass through when you're making a deep cut on soft wood or cutting rope or whatever. The grind is pretty much full flat all the way up and down the blade. And on the deluxe model with the sharpened clip, that's a flat grind too. Again, the deluxe model is ground with a sharp clip and it's sharpened. This edge is not as sharp as a straight razor. It's not as sharp as a proper kitchen knife. I set the edge on it with an A45 3M gator belt. That's roughly about 320 grit, just to get me down to that nice angle on the edge. Then I clean it up with an Easy Lap diamond stone. I start with the 400 grit, then I use the 1200 grit side. When I'm happy with that, I strap it real quick on a plain piece of leather on the smooth side, and that gives us what I consider a good working edge. It's a little bit toothy, but it's keen enough to do some cutting. Let's see if this thing will cut some cardboard. Seems to be working pretty good. Try it right down here by the heel. Try it right up here by the belly. Do a little chopping with it. Little snap cuts. That works. Now, why in the world would you want a sharpened clip on a big old camp knife? Well, here's why. That gives you speed, and even though the clip isn't as acute as the main bevel, the speed and the shape of it gives you some aggressive cutting. On the standard model, the clip isn't sharpened. It's just crowned over like the rest of the spine for beating on it, but it still gives you a fine tip if you need to dig on something, or God forbid you have to poke at somebody, grizzly bear or something. I'll clear these dogs out of the yard and then we'll go do some heavier cutting. Naturally, what we use a camp knife for most often is chopping. So let's see if this thing can do any chopping. I'm not doing this as a timed test or anything. And this is certainly not the most stable way to chop a 2x4, but I think you can see that there's enough leverage and enough weight and enough balance to do some pretty heavy cuts without working your behind off. Leverage is a big factor. This thing balances right about there right about where the maker's mark is. And that forward heavy balance helps you get a good momentum with the tip and the sweet spot when you get to chopping on something. Now, like I said, we're taking our time here. Not trying to break any records. Just trying to show that the knife will cut without very much effort. Okay, so a 9.5 inch blade, a 1/4 inch thick will chop. That's no surprise. The next question is, will CPM 3V at 60 RC, ground that thin at the tip, still be tough enough to handle some fairly rough use? Well, there's only one way to find out. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm going to call that a yes. Tip is still straight. There's no chips or rolling over on the edge. The steel is plenty tough enough to deal with that. Would I go chopping through a concrete block and expect it to remain shaving sharp? No, that's stupid. But it does exhibit a good deal of toughness. Keep in mind, I'm using as little effort as possible. I'm big on using very little effort to accomplish more work. Let's see if that edge held up through all this. The ever popular cardboard shipping tube. This will cut. A little bit finer work. Obviously this is not a kitchen knife. You can see how it pulls away from the onion because the blade is so thick. But it's still sharp enough to help you get some lunch together around the campfire. One cut, nice and clean. Now I admit this is a little bit silly, but anybody can cut open a 20-ounce water bottle with a 9.5 inch blade. Let's see if we can do it with this one on a 2-liter water bottle. And the answer is yes.